Mai is a young woman, 28 years old. She works in a factory in Vietnam, near Ho Chi Minh City. Mai carefully puts together an iPad that will travel to a store in California. Mai moved here 3 years ago from a farming village. She now earns about $320 each month. This is much more than her parents earn. The factory is very modern and busy. Thousands of workers move carefully. Robots help with tasks. Special vehicles move parts. Workers check finished products. The factory works day and night, making 200,000 iPads every day. Soon, this iPad will say, "Made in Vietnam." This is a big change. Not long ago, most products like this said, "Made in China." The "Made in China" label was known everywhere. It meant products for the world were made there. Now, Vietnam is quickly becoming a major place for making goods. This shift is more than a new address for factories. It shows a huge change in global manufacturing. Vietnam was mostly a farming country. Now, it is a key workshop for many big companies. How did this happen? How did Vietnam become such a big factory nation? How did a country rebuilding from war become a top choice for companies? This book will explain these questions. We will look at the reasons for this global shift. We will see how Vietnam grew and why companies moved their production there. This is a story about the changing world of factories and global trade. 2. Why China is changing. For many years, China was widely known as the world's factory. This great shift began after the year 2000. At that time, China became a member of the World Trade Organization. This important step gave Chinese manufacturers open access to global markets. China had many advantages. A huge number of workers who would work for low wages. New and better infrastructure like roads and ports, and strong support from its government for exporting goods. Because of this, companies found it easy to make almost anything there, from simple textiles to complicated electronics. China quickly became the main place for making products for the entire world. However, things are now changing in China, and this shift is happening for several key reasons. First, the cost of labor has increased a lot. For example, in 2005, an average factory worker earned about $150 per month. By 2020, this average wage had grown significantly to over $600 per month. These higher salaries make it more expensive for companies to produce simple goods in China. Also, the number of young people joining the workforce is getting smaller. The Chinese government also started to introduce stronger rules for protecting the environment, which made factories pay more. Power problems and local shutdowns also sometimes happened, adding to costs. Most importantly, China's leaders made a strategic decision in 2015. They launched a plan called Made in China 2025. This plan is about changing China from a place that makes cheap goods to a world leader in high-tech products. China wants to focus on industries like robotics, artificial intelligence, and new energy. The goal is for Chinese factories to make advanced products and use new technologies, rather than just assemble basic items. This means Chinese factories are now focusing on building complex machines and using cutting-edge technology. Because of these big changes, China is no longer the top choice for simple, labor-intensive factory work. The rising costs and China's new focus mean that many companies are now looking for other countries to make their low-cost, easy-to-assemble goods. China is moving towards making advanced products, which creates new opportunities for other nations to take on the role of manufacturing simpler items. 3. Vietnam's new plan. Vietnam started big economic changes in 1986. These changes were called Doi Moi, which means renovation. Before Doi Moi, Vietnam was a very poor country. The government controlled almost everything in the economy. But with Doi Moi, Vietnam began to open its doors to the world. It allowed private businesses and welcomed companies from other countries. This new plan helped Vietnam's economy grow very fast, and many people moved out of poverty. The government worked hard to make Vietnam a good place for foreign companies to build factories. They offered special benefits to attract them. One important benefit was low taxes. Some companies could pay as little as 10% in taxes, which was much lower than in other countries. The government also created special economic zones. In these zones, companies found it easy to start a business. Rules were simpler, and factories had reliable electricity and quick approvals for their plans. To support these new factories, Vietnam invested a lot of money in building better infrastructure. Between 2010 and 2020, the country spent over $200 billion on new roads, ports, and power plants. Major ports like Cat Lai became 5 times bigger, making it easier for large ships to come and go. New highways were built, cutting down travel time between big cities. Industrial zones were carefully designed. They included modern utilities like good water and waste systems. These zones also had easy ways to transport goods, helping factories work smoothly. All these efforts made Vietnam an attractive location for businesses looking to make products. The government's clear plan and strong support laid the groundwork for Vietnam to become a major manufacturing hub. 4. A good place to work. Vietnam became very good at making deals with other countries. These were called free trade agreements. They made it easier and cheaper for companies in Vietnam to send their products to many places. For example, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, known as CPTP, helped Vietnamese products go to Japan, Canada, and Australia without high taxes. This was a big help for factories. Also, the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, or EVFTA, opened doors to European countries. This meant businesses could sell to a very large market easily. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership also helped trade with other countries in Asia. These agreements gave Vietnam an important advantage. Another reason for Vietnam's success was its many workers. The country has a young population. Most people are between 15 and 64 years old, ready to work. The government also made sure people could get good education and training. So workers were not just young, but also skilled and eager to learn. This made them very valuable. For instance, workers could quickly learn new tasks for electronics or clothes making. Companies noted that Vietnamese employees learned faster than workers in some other countries to meet high-quality standards. This meant products were made well and quickly. Their wages were also lower than in China, making production costs less for companies. This mix of young, educated, and motivated workers was a major advantage. The government also built special places for factories, called industrial parks. These were well-planned areas with good roads, reliable electricity, and water. Many factories could be close together in these parks. This helped them work better. For example, if one factory made parts for another, they were not far apart. This saved time and money for everyone. Provinces like Bac Ninh became known for high-tech factories making electronics. Others, like Binh Duong, focused on furniture and textiles. This way, different areas became experts in different types of products. All these steps made Vietnam a truly good place for companies to build factories and hire people. 5. Big world problems. The world faced big problems that made companies change where they made their products. One major issue was the trade war between the United States and China, which started in 2018. The U.S. government placed extra taxes, called tariffs, on many goods coming from China. These tariffs made products assembled in China more expensive for businesses selling to America. This situation meant that companies buying parts or finished items from China saw their costs rise. This made it harder for them to earn money. For example, a large company like Apple, which deeply relied on Chinese factories, had to consider these new costs. If they continued making all their consumer electronics in China, their products would become much more expensive for customers. Because of this, many companies began to look for new countries to make their goods. This strategy became known as China Plus One. It meant that companies did not completely leave China. China still had many advanced factories for producing complex, high-tech items. However, businesses wanted to have at least one other country where they could also make their products. This way, if there was an issue in China, they could still continue production elsewhere. Vietnam became a very popular choice for this plus-one approach. Major companies, including Samsung and Apple, started moving some of their manufacturing to Vietnam for items like smartphones and iPads. Then, another significant global problem occurred: the COVID-19 pandemic. China had very strict rules, known as the Zero COVID policy, which caused many cities to be locked down. For instance, important manufacturing hubs like Shanghai were closed for long periods. This stopped factories from making products and sending them out. Global supply chains, which are the networks of factories, transport, and suppliers worldwide, stopped working smoothly. The pandemic clearly showed companies a big risk. If all their production was located in just one country, like China, then a single government policy or health crisis could stop everything. This made businesses understand they needed resilience. They needed to be able to keep their operations going even when unexpected problems happened. These two big world problems, the US-China trade war and the COVID-19 pandemic with its lockdowns, made companies move to Vietnam much faster. During the pandemic, Vietnam's factories could often stay open more easily with targeted measures, unlike the widespread shutdowns in China. This made Vietnam appear as a more reliable and safer place for manufacturing. Companies began to see Vietnam not just as a cheaper option, but also as a more secure one. This rapid shift greatly changed where many of the world's products are made today. 6. Good things and bad things. Lê Von Duc, 32 years old, works as a supervisor in a Samsung factory in Bac Ninh Province, Vietnam. His factory job has changed his life a lot. He earns $580 each month. This is much more money than what his parents earned from their small rice farm in Thanh Hoa Province. The factory gives him good benefits, like air conditioning, warm meals, and dormitories with Wi-Fi. Duck can save $200 every month. He sends money to his parents to help them. His wife also works as an accountant for a company that makes parts for factories. Together, they have a good income. They bought a motorcycle and rent a comfortable two-bedroom apartment. Their two young children go to a private school. These good things were not possible for his family before these factory jobs came to Vietnam. Duck started as a simple line worker. Because he learned fast and worked hard, he quickly became a supervisor. He now checks the quality of smartphone parts. He always needs to learn new skills because new robotic machines are arriving, making some old jobs disappear. Michael Chen, a manager from Taiwan, works for Foxconn in Vietnam. He helps set up new production lines for Apple products. He sees both the advantages and the difficulties of working here. Michael says that labor costs are lower than in China, but workers often need more training at the start. It takes longer to teach them how to make complex electronics products. Also, while roads and power systems are getting better, power outages can still cause problems for factories. He also notes that speaking different languages can make communication harder. However, Michael also says that things are improving very quickly. In 2020, training workers to meet Apple's high-quality standards took 6 months. Today, it takes only 3 months. Problems with infrastructure that used to happen every week now happen less often, maybe once a month. Foxconn is investing a lot of money in Vietnam, over $1.5 billion since 2019. They plan to hire 60,000 Vietnamese workers. This shows they have strong belief in Vietnam's future. These real stories show how this big change in where products are made brings many good things, but also some difficulties for the people living through it. 7. New problems for Vietnam. Vietnam's rapid growth brings new challenges. One big problem is electricity. Factories need a lot of power, but sometimes there is not enough. Many industrial areas have power cuts. These cuts can last several hours each day. This happens because more and more factories open and people use more electricity. New power plants are not built fast enough. These power problems mean factories might stop production. They may also need to use expensive generators, which costs more money. Transportation is also getting difficult. Big ports like Cat Lai are very busy. They handle too many ships and containers. Roads leading to industrial areas are often crowded with trucks. This makes it slow to move goods. Delays on roads and at ports can make products late. Companies might also need to keep more products in storage, which is expensive. These issues slow down how quickly things can be made and sent out. Another problem is finding the right workers. Vietnam has many people ready to work in factories, but it needs more workers with special skills. Factories need engineers, expert technicians, and good managers. These skilled workers can operate complex machines and lead teams. Training programs sometimes do not teach all the skills needed for new, high-tech factories. Also, not many Vietnamese workers speak good English. This can make communication hard with foreign company leaders. Because of this, some companies have to bring managers from other countries. The environment faces new risks too. More factories mean more air and water pollution. Factories release smoke into the air. They also put chemicals into rivers and streams. This pollution can harm people's health and nature. For example, some industrial areas have bad air quality for many days a year. Rivers like the Mekong are seeing more pollution. The amount of waste from factories and people is growing quickly. Vietnam's government is trying to help. They are making stricter rules for factories. They also want to build better waste treatment systems. Many international companies are also helping factories use cleaner methods. But balancing fast economic growth with protecting the environment is a difficult task for Vietnam. 8. What happens next? Vietnam has become a very important country for making products. It changed from a farming country to a global factory hub in a short time. Now, many big companies make their goods here. This shows how smart plans, good timing, and hard work can change a country. Vietnam is now an important link in how products are made and sold around the world. It hosts factories for some of the biggest companies. But Vietnam is not exactly like China. China built a very large factory system for all kinds of products. Vietnam has chosen to focus on certain types of making things, like electronics and clothes. It uses smart government plans and its young population. This helps Vietnam be a special part of the world's supply chain. Vietnam's strength comes from its good plans, its young people, and knowing what its place is in the global market. It has captured factory jobs that China no longer wants because China is now focusing on high-tech products. However, Vietnam faces new problems as it grows fast. Workers' pay is getting higher by 8 to 12% each year. This means the low-cost advantage might not last forever compared to other countries. Also, the number of young workers will slow down in the future, like China's population. The country needs to make sure its factories can make more with fewer workers or make more valuable products. The country also needs more good roads and enough electricity for all the new factories. Ports are busy and roads are crowded. These problems make it harder to deliver products on time. It also needs more skilled workers and managers for complex jobs. While many people work in factories, there are not enough engineers and highly skilled technicians. And with more factories, there are more worries about clean air and water. Vietnam must be careful to grow in a way that protects nature and makes sure the growth can last. This means investing more in clean technology and infrastructure. The world of making products is always changing. It is not just one country making everything anymore. Vietnam is a good example of how different countries can become important for global production. This helps companies and consumers by making supply chains stronger and less risky. It also shows other developing countries a new way to grow. Vietnam's rise shows that countries can get a big share of world production with good plans, smart investments, and good timing. The big question now is, what will Vietnam do next? Can it keep growing and make more high-tech products like China did? Or will its low-cost advantage slowly go away and new countries take its place? The future of where our products are made will continue to change, driven by the search for the best prices and reliable production. What part of Vietnam's journey do you find most interesting?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.